It usually starts when you're tired. A quiet scroll through a feed leads to a targeted ad, and within seconds, you've selected your size and tapped that glowing button. In the moment of that click, your brain registers a very real, very intoxicating rush. But the momentum of that feeling is short-lived. The excitement often evaporates before the package even leaves the warehouse. By the time the box arrives on your doorstep, the item inside feels like an afterthought, destined for a shelf or a closet where it sits, unused. This leads to a familiar internal dialogue, the flicker of guilt, the check of the bank balance, and the promise that this was the last one. Yet, a few days later, the cycle repeats. It leaves you with a quiet, heavy question. Why does a simple promise to stop feel so difficult to keep? We often treat this as a personal flaw or a lack of discipline. But when millions of people experience the exact same broken promise swoop every single week, it suggests we are dealing with something deeper than individual willpower. To find a way out, we have to look at the machinery of the brain itself. Once you see how your internal wiring is being targeted, the struggle stops being a fight against yourself and becomes a project of understanding the system you're operating in. The first step is acknowledging that the physical object is rarely the point. We track the package and wait for the delivery, but the actual arrival is an anticlimax, because the purchase was never about the item. It was about securing a specific chemical shift. This chart tracks dopamine. It functions as the chemical of anticipation, spiking while you browse and wait. By delivery, the spike collapses. The high vanishes, creating a chemical deficit your brain solves by starting a new chase. You are buying the feeling of the hunt. This makes shopping an incredibly fast way to regulate uncomfortable emotions. When we feel stressed, bored, or lonely, a purchase provides a brief escape. It is a form of rented relief. The mood is briefly lifted, but the underlying feeling remains, now accompanied by a credit card charge. Historically, humans had a natural defense against overspending, called the pain of paying. Neuroscientists have found that handing over physical cash activates the same regions of the brain associated with actual physical discomfort. This friction acted as a biological brake. Digital commerce has systematically removed that brake. Between one-click checkouts and saved cards, the physical sensation of losing money has been deleted. Without that neurological friction, our emotional impulses can move from a desire to a completed transaction before our logical brain has a chance to intervene. This internal vulnerability is met with an external environment designed to exploit it. Modern retail platforms function as massive persuasion engines, built specifically to bypass your capacity for deliberation. These systems use high-pressure tactics to force a decision. Fake scarcity timers, personalized feeds with infinite scrolls, and frictionless buy now buttons are engineered to keep you in a state of reaction rather than reflection. This targets hyperbolic discounting. A reward we can have right now feels vivid and loud, while a future reward feels abstract. The immediate hit of a purchase consistently outweighs the long-term goal of financial security, because the now brain simply has a louder voice. We also use these objects to try and bridge the gap between our current reality and our idealized selves. We buy the gear to feel like an athlete, or the tools to feel productive. The purchase offers the temporary hope of a new identity, but since a product cannot change a person, the gap remains, and the cycle continues. The consequences of this cycle show up in our bank accounts and our cluttered homes, but these are only the most visible effects. The deeper cost is the slow erosion of self-trust that occurs every time we break a promise to ourselves. We trade away future freedom and peace of mind for a few seconds of a chemical chase, while the real emotions we were trying to soothe, the stress or the loneliness, remain unaddressed. This leads to a shame loop. The guilt caused by spending creates a negative emotional state, which the brain then tries to fix by seeking the same dopamine hit that caused the problem in the first place. Breaking this loop doesn't require you to stop enjoying things. It requires you to reclaim the pause that these apps were designed to remove. You have to manually reinstall the friction that technology deleted. Start by changing your digital environment. Delete saved credit cards from your browser and log out of shopping apps. When you make it harder to pay, you give your logical brain time to wake up. This shifts the pressure away from your willpower and puts it onto the process itself. You can also use time as a diagnostic tool with a 48-hour rule. When you feel the urge to buy something non-essential, put it in the cart and walk away. Once the initial dopamine spike of wanting fades, you will often find the desire for the item itself disappears with it. Before clicking buy, try naming the underlying feeling. Are you actually looking for a new lamp, or are you just bored and looking for a distraction? Identifying the real need, whether it's rest, connection, or stimulation, allows you to address it directly without reaching for your wallet. To help your future self compete with the present urge, give your savings a specific emotional name. A freedom fund or a house deposit is a much more effective counterargument to a late-night impulse than an abstract number in a savings account. Try a simple practice this week. Next time the urge hits, set a 20-minute timer. Don't fight the feeling, just watch it. You'll notice that most impulses have a very short lifespan if you don't feed them with a click. You are a normal brain navigating an environment engineered to exploit your biology. Understanding that machinery is how you begin to take back control. If you found this useful, subscribe for our next look into the psychology of lifestyle inflation.